What's up, everybody? I'm Michael Krste, 3 years running top seller at ShineOn, now head of marketing at ShineOn. And before we get started in today's video, I just wanted to thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. If you like this kind of content, I want you to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I hope you enjoy the video. Hey, everybody. So dude, everybody's probably wondering, and I've wondered this a few times myself, how do you say your name? I look at your name and I like, have you ever watched Wheel of Fortune? And like they famously in Wheel of Fortune, they're like, "Would you like to buy a vowel?" That's how I feel sometimes when I'm trying to get through the first part of your name. So how do we say it?
It's Krste.
Krste, like that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I've been saying, you corrected me, I think,
Yeah.
I don't know, 2 months ago or something. I think I've been saying it right since then. So for the record, everybody, Krste. And just for fun, how do we say your last name?
Kovaceski.
One more time?
Kovaceski.
Kovaceski. That one's easy. That's much easier for me anyway. So, dude, where are you from? What part of the world are you in?
So I'm currently living in Macedonia in Europe, but I spent most of my life in Australia.
Oh, wow. How did that happen?
So I guess a few years ago, I sort of like had some medical issues and kind of like changed my vision on life. And, you know, I came because I'm from Macedonia, but I was like here on holiday and I met my wife and, you know, things sort of happened. And then I decided to come back here in 2018. And I've been living here since then. So that's where like all this sort of journey started, obviously, because me being a software consultant, I had to do like freelancing and then I'm looking at other opportunities and stuff. And ShineOn is something that came onto my radar a little bit. I think it was late last year where I got started with ShineOn.
And had you done any like marketing type stuff before?
No, like, I knew like when I started, I thought, you know, my time's better spent doing what I know, like, because I was doing consulting for IT. So I'm like, you know, I'm better off, you know, my time's valuable and getting paid for that. I'll hire someone else to do the marketing for our store that we set up. And, you know, we engaged an agency and, you know, promised the world. And, you know, they were quite pricey as well. But, you know, we've had this conversation before. They're like extremely under delivered. So I had to take it upon my own hands to learn pretty much from scratch. So, you know, messing around with things, I figured things out, and, you know, I managed to do a bit of a better result Q4 last year after taking over the accounts, but, you know, not quite profitable. And obviously from there, I went to your course and just evolved from there, really.
So before we get too far into that, do you think so you come from a software background, like like you were a developer?
More of a consultant, so like finding solutions for businesses, and primarily in Microsoft. So Microsoft Office 365, SharePoint, Teams, and so like Teams is like a Slack alternative.
Yeah, I've used Teams actually.
Yeah, it's grown exponentially, especially with COVID. Like they had like a 4,000% increase. So, you know, this year, the beginning of this year was like really, really busy for me because, you know, print on demand started going really well, and also,
yeah,
I was really busy with consulting sort of stuff as well. With, you know, 4,000% increase, everyone wants Teams yesterday, so like I was setting all that up. And like I couldn't balance everything. I was like overwhelmed. So it wasn't until like mid-year where I completely like moved away from IT consulting completely. Like,
so were you like freelance consulting, or were you working for somebody at the time?
so I have my own IT consulting business in Australia, and I had clients which I established, and then also like freelance as well on top of that. So like some just
So you were
like,
kind of setting your own hours and stuff for the most part anyway.
yeah, exactly. But I was working much harder than what I'm working now. I can tell you.
Yeah, I believe it. So do you think, where I was kind of going with this was, do you think you had any like acquired skills from doing your IT consulting and stuff that you were able to kind of bring to the print on demand media buying type space that gave you an advantage?
I don't believe so. Probably the only thing is like my ability to really learn very quickly, because like when you're developing or like learning technologies, it's always ever changing, and that's kind of similar with Facebook, right? Like the algorithms, the way things work, like day to day, like it's so rapid in the way that things change. So I guess me being technology agnostic
Yeah,
sort of.
that's actually super interesting because that elasticity, right? That like being able to kind of be flexible and adjust with the times. Like I think that is actually hard for a lot of people. They'll get kind of stuck in their ways. I mean, I've found that I've been supremely challenged by some of Facebook's algorithm changes, even in the last 3 or 4 months. With my IM algorithm method, I love to death. Has just it's only been so for me recently.
Me
And
too.
it's made me really have to like kind of think outside the box and challenge myself and my methods and kind of where Facebook is at and where it's headed.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like a constant challenge trying to stay ahead of it. I mean, you just have to like continue and battle and test and find different things, and that's why I kind of set up my private community, because I felt that that was needed, like ongoing like support and to help other people as well, rather than just do a course and then you have like a system, and then that system may change like over time. So that's why I decided to go a different way rather than just like having a course or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point, dude. Especially in times of deep flux. It kind of seems like having that extra support is helpful. That's part of the reasons I've tried to do these lives as often as I have. But so you were saying that you don't really feel like you brought any skill sets, like acquired skills from your IT consulting to this kind of print on demand media buying space
Mm,
outside of like maybe, the whole like concept of being elastic and your knowledge and like continuing to learn and all that kind of stuff.
Not really. I mean, if you count like sitting in front of a computer, that's probably like
Having a
the
high
only.
tolerance for hours and hours and hours in front of a computer. Well,
Exactly. Like I know a lot of people that can't do that, like that work like labor and they just cannot do it. Like I try to like get them to, do something else, but
well,
some
part of
just not,
part of
it's just for them.
part of the reason I ask is because like there are certain professions that seem to excel with media buying. One of them that I see comes up quite a bit. And I don't know necessarily that there's a direct correlation here, but poker players, like professional poker players, people who are really good at poker, like for some reason they get into kind of this media buying kind of thing and they're better than average at it. And I have my own theories around that, but anyway, I was just wondering like, what from your background or history helped you come into this space and do so well?
Well, if you're talking about poker players, that probably hits home, because while I wasn't a professional poker player, I was pretty good at StarCraft 2, like a video game, which is like a RTS, so a real-time strategy, and I was like in the Grandmaster League, which is like the top percent or 2% of all players in the world.
Wow,
So
good for you, man.
I guess in that aspect, like thinking what other people are thinking, and working around, like I guess that does apply to like some of my marketing strategies and some of my campaign strategies as well. It ties in with like thinking what other people are thinking, working out what they're doing and trying to do things better.
Yeah, you develop an intuition for outmaneuvering things that you can't see, right?
Right.
Because like in
Exactly.
StarCraft, you know, most of the map is clouded. You can't see what your opponents are doing. You have little touch points with your opponents where
Exactly. And like in finals, right, you have to verse the same person 5 or 6 times, so you have to like predict what they're gonna do, and you kind of like throw them off by doing the same thing again, and they like, oh wait, is he gonna do it again? Like it just like so much mind games at that sort of level. So
well, it's weird because I kind of hear what you're saying. I don't know that I would have attributed this necessarily to like video games. I played a lot of StarCraft back in like the late 90s and early 2000s. And then I got really into Counter-Strike and some other video games. But I will say that there's something, I don't know how to quite articulate this or put it into words. So maybe you can help here, but there is something about like when you're trying to discover like the way the algorithm has changed or like currently works, like there's no manual or anything you can go to. You literally figure that out by kind of testing and in a way feeling it out, you know? Like I remember one of the ways that I kind of stumbled onto the whole IM algorithm thing was just that I noticed that whenever I launched multiple ad sets, some of them, like even if they were duplicates to the same audience, some of them just sucked and some of them did great. And the ones that did great would just go on doing great. They just continue. And I started to think, well, if it's just a freaking numbers game, why don't I just like throw 50 or 100 ad sets at it and then increase the number of winners that I find? Anyway, so I started playing around with that. And I did at the campaign level, the ad set level, different places. And like through that testing, you're able to kind of feel your way around an object, but like in the dark. You know what I mean? Like you're able to kind of learn what the algorithm's doing by pushing back against its resistances and figuring out where it gives and things like that.
Yep. And that's all it is. Like the method which I was talking to you about like a few months ago was just like me like making a mistake. I actually made a mistake based on someone else's method, and I kind of evolved it with my own parameters. Like, so I made a mistake and it worked, and then like I changed a few other things, and then like, you know, I have my own method which was like working really well. And there's like two different, like from my experience, there's two different paths which you can take. Like in the matrix, you can take the blue pill or the red pill, and that decision is whether you want to use like hacky methods and have like really high ROAS but not really scale, or you want to take the red pill where you know, scale really big and you sacrifice profitability. So yeah, there's like ups and downs of the two decisions that you have to make. So yeah, it's crazy.
Well, it's, you know, it should be said too that you just have to choose your sacrifice there, because there is no middle road to that, at least in my experience. Like when I did my 92K day or whatever, I really did hit about a 3 ROAS, but like, again, I kind of think I had a unicorn product. I was in the right time in the right place. Like, I think it's going to be hard to replicate that exact kind of success. But like, without a doubt, when you push volume, ROAS goes down. Like like there is always that trade-off there between maintaining super high ROAS or super high volume. One individual, I don't know if he's watching, but Stephen De Gracia, this dude is like, he's a master media buyer, in my opinion. And one of the things he's amazing at is achieving incredibly high ROAS with like low volume. So, I mean, he would, I think the last time I really saw some big posts from him were like around April, May timeframe last year. But he was doing he was doing stuff where he was spending like $70 and he had like $700 in purchase conversion value. I mean, it was crazy, but it was all at low, like small scale. He couldn't scale that much larger. But anyway, so yeah, there's always that trade-off.
And yeah, I did share the insight. I think someone else posted something in the group the other day that basically, from my experience and my guesstimate, is that with like when it's in the learning phase, Facebook will send you leads, so people that are not qualified yet. So it doesn't know if they're a view content or an add to cart or initiate checkout or a purchase person yet. So it'll send you some of that traffic as well as some purchase conversion traffic. And what tends to happen is when it's in learning, it will find you like buys. And that's sometimes what happens when you have like products that do really well and then nothing, because of the experimental traffic, they convert like really well. So, you know, you can have a really good streak with this learning traffic. But what happens is after it finishes the learning phase, it won't send you this experimental traffic, and the price of the traffic goes up as well because it's only sending you purchase traffic after that point. So the increased costs and only that traffic, so your ROAS does tend to go down after an ad set is optimized. But like you say, you can't really scale the small scale budget sort of hacky sort of method. So it is like that trade off there for sure. And the
I
other
also hear you
someone
on
will
the
copy products.
what's that?
Someone will copy your products if you slowly scale something.
Yeah, I know, man. That's why one of the things I've said repeatedly is like your goal is to find a winner and then scale it to the moon. I mean, you do not want to move slowly on it. you
Yep.
want to take over market share as quickly as you possibly can. The other thing is I kind of wondered, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. I'm almost certain that Facebook is reading the products now, like the images, right?
It is 100%
And
reading the images.
what's that?
It is 100% reading the images, because I've seen some of the bot code and it actually does, like, it reads the message cards, and sometimes it reads it wrong, and that's what can cause
Dude,
account.
that's a good point, man. Yeah. Well, where I was headed with that though is like I think, and this is total speculation on my part, but I think if you have one seller that finds a winner and they're dumping boatloads of cash into it, they're scaling it. And then you have another seller come along and they just carbon copy the winner. I could be wrong about this, but I think Facebook knows. I think they know like, hey, we have this account over here pushing this product and it's doing really well. And I think they give it preferential treatment in the auction. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, it'll definitely have preferential treatment in the auction. So there's many things which get considered as to advertiser's value score. So like the page engagement, the previous ad performance. So if an ad starts off well, it'll generally continue off well. And as you say, like if that ad is continually doing well, that advertiser score goes up. So if you carbon copy someone, it's very likely you're gonna, especially if you're using automatic bidding. So if you just basically go, here's $100, here's my product, and get me the best results you can for that budget, the other person will win the bid because they've already got a higher value than you, because they've had that ad out for X amount of time, and Facebook knows where that value is, whereas you're a new advertiser and it doesn't know where your value is. So, and if you're competing against the other product, you're likely going to lose the auction. So that'll just drive your bids up and up. So you find your cost per purchase will be, 50, 70 or $100. So a lot of the people that, like, even drop shipping, when they do straight copy products, you find that their margins are very, very thin. It's just the way of the game. And like there is like tricks around that, like using manual bidding and pushing bids up to compete against that original seller and drive the value up quicker and take over the position. Like there is like
It
advanced
becomes a
strategy.
tug of war over
Yeah,
that total value metric. Huh.
exactly. So there is like tricks to compete with other sellers and beat them in the auctions. But yeah, that's more advanced. We can talk like a full half a day about manual bidding and like tricks you can do to acquire a customer base. But like, yeah, like as you've recommended to everyone, as I've recommended to like all of my private members and anyone else that sort of has had a conversation with me, is not to like straight out copy other people's designs. Do your own take, find a different audience which you can pitch that product to, like do something different, because all of the times where I've had like super high ROAS is where I found like an engaged audience and they're just like snapping up the product. Like, and even with my like one of my private group members is like doing really, really well. He found a movie which is quite old, but it's got like a super engaged audience. So he was able to like blend the two niches, like so the wife and this movie, and he's just like doing like 6-7 ROAS at like pretty good scale as well. So it's like there's so many like pots of audiences out there where it's like untapped yet. So there's plenty of opportunity. There's no reason why you should just be like competing with people, especially when they're at scale, to try and acquire their customers.
Dude, let's talk a little bit about creativity. So This is something that I think, how do I put it? Those that are more like engineer minded type individuals probably struggle with when it comes to the print on demand space. But I kind of see this wave happen every time there's some new trend kind of in this marketing world that we all play in. And that's it. Like when a new product comes along, generally, like, how do I put it? Like the you don't have to be super creative to do really well with it. You can take things that are pretty simple, pretty standard, but since it's like a new product, that alone makes it stand out in the newsfeed and draws attention and eyeballs to it and that kind of thing. But over time, as the market gets saturated with those types of products, it's going to take something more creative. Like like you're just going to have to get a lot better at appealing to different segments of the audience. First of all, does that sound true to you? And second of all, like, what do you do to stay creative, to make sure that when you find an idea, you're putting kind of your own unique spin and flavor on it and making something that perhaps people have never seen before?
Yeah, so I guess the first part of the question is the designs I always keep super simple, just like all my advertising campaigns. Like I like to keep everything simple, and most of my designs are like if I'm going like really broad, and I'm not like doing like a sub niche, like we were talking about like a movie or something like that. It's literally like a simple one color message card, sometimes two-tone message card with big text and the message. So the message is the most important part. That's something that you and I have, pushed out a lot, that the message is what really sells. So make sure the message is seen, like whether it's new creative or old creative, as long as the message is seen. Like I've pushed the same creative to the same audience and been successful, but change the message or change the tone, like just the background of the message card is enough to hit a different segment of the audience. So there's plenty of segments of a audience which you can hit. So, and the second part of your question was about the trying to find ideas for designs. So I guess it's like trying to find audiences which would be interested. So like TV series, movies, particular activities like ballet or something like that, for example. So, these audiences would be super engaged. So while they're not super broad, you'd probably like add like a design element. So you can have like a ballerina on one side of the message card. So this is like a more niche engaged product. So we were talking about broad products before. So like if you want to go to like bigger, broader audiences, you just keep it super simple and just like one color plus text, right? So now we're talking about sub niche and niche products where you add some design elements, where you're like making it catered to the audience. So like we talked about like a movie, you can have like some elements from the movie, as long as it's not copyrighted. So like, do a freehand drawing or something else, like a fan art, like different, like I'm not saying like go and take, Disney, for example, and put like a Disney logo on it. That's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm saying like maybe like you can do your own take on something like a fan art of a character or something like that. But at least that way you've got something that'll hit the audience. And the other thing is it makes your targeting a lot easier because you just target the audience which is interested in that TV series, book, activity, whatever it is that you're doing. Like I've seen some other people doing some creative designs as well, like with hunting. So there's plenty of niches. Like there's fishing. There's so many activities out there that are probably untapped that people can look at combining. So rather than just going for wife, like everyone's just going out, first thing they think about, to my wife, and so many people testing that. You've got this sub niche which is probably more engaged, and you have more people engage likely to purchase that. Does that kind of cover that, I guess?
No, it totally makes sense, man. It sounds like you're saying, and I think you and I might have slightly different approaches here. It sounds like you're saying that, especially for folks that are relatively new, it's probably going to be easier to break into this space and kind of learn the ropes if they try to find an audience that's already engaged, and then basically create designs tailored towards that audience, right? This is actually something I did cover in a niche selection Facebook post I did a while back with an infographic. I said, most people create a design, then try to find an audience. You should find an audience and then kind of reverse engineer a design that you think the audience would like.
For sure.
I think where you and I maybe, first of all, I don't disagree with that approach at all. In fact, I'm probably going to go experiment with that now into 2021. I think where you and I maybe have approached things a little differently is like I always have just tended to go as broad as I can, because when I find something, I want to be able to scale it to incredible levels. And I'm okay if that means I have to test more products to find the one that will do that. But that's interesting. It sounds like it's probably a more consistent way to find profitable products.
Yeah.
You think that's about right?
That's exactly right. And I agree with you. Like at the moment I'm doing a broad product and I'm creeping up on your 1 week sale figures. So we'll see how that pans out.
Not at 3 ROAS, you're not, buddy.
No, it's a bit tighter than that. But again, like it's still crazy, like how quickly and how like literally, I think I started this product on the 22nd, and you know we're almost at we're just about at 500,000 in terms of sales. So it's crazy. Like it's 14 days.
Dude, this time of year is magical for that kind of stuff.
And that's just one product. Like I've got another account, other products. So it's crazy.
So here's something too so let's be careful how we talk about this, because I don't want to give anything away, but you know, you and I have been, I would say, pretty good friends now for almost a year, maybe over a year, little over a year. And I know kind of your products have done super well. You know, my products have done super well. One of the things that surprised me in this knowledge is how big the market is. I'm a little bit stunned at just how large the market is for these jewelry items. Have you felt, I'm curious what you have felt when you sit here and look back, and I don't want to give away numbers or anything like that, but I cannot believe how big the market is on some of these winners.
Yeah, and it's craziness, because you know when I look back this time last year, I was like so impressed by the figures you were doing and like all the stuff you were doing, and I couldn't imagine that I'd be like in a similar sort of situation. Like this year has been completely crazy with ups and downs, and you know Facebook doing crazy things with accounts and all of this sort of stuff. So last thing I would have imagined, like, you know, I'd be in a similar sort of situation. And yeah, you're right in the terms of how big the market is. And like I was saying before, when we're talking about the designs, like not the straight copy, like you can take something that works and put your own marketing spin or spin it to a different audience. So like if we go back, I think you talked about this on your previous lives, where the same phrases have just like dominated so many time and time again. It's just people putting them on different products, they're spinning them around, or they're like mixing them up, kind of like what you call your Frankenstein method as well. So
Frankenphrase, TM.
Frankenphrase, TM. Yeah. So, you know, I was doing that quite a lot as well. So, you know, it's like changing it up will hit like a different part of the audience, and, you know, finding a different audience that may be interested in that phrase as well. So, you know, like the Braver Stronger has pretty much every single niche it's like hit. So it works.
Who knows how many millions of dollars that thing has brought in, man?
Yeah.
It's probably astronomical.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, most of the time when I see successful products, they have like some sort of variation of something that already works. So, or other products which I've seen is they've taken inspiration from a phrase and they've like kind of kept the same tone. So if it's like a cheeky tone, they do their own like sort of cheeky tone. So just flipping it a little bit, but keeping the same thing and targeting the same audience. So it's slightly different, like in terms of what it's trying to do. So it's like even subtle changes with something that works can, work again. So it's the market.
So, dude, go ahead.
I was just saying the market is huge. I agree with you.
So this time, it's kind of occurring to me, maybe not everybody kind of knows you or where you're at or your story or whatever. This time last year, where were you at? Had you hired the agency this time last year?
Yeah. So this time last year, I would have been finishing up with the agency. So they just started just before Black Friday, and they finished, I think, about the 1 week before cutoff. And yeah, I think the result which they got me with $2,000 ad spend was 0.5 ROAS. And I think when I took over the ad account, I ended up being at like a 1 ROAS, which is, half better than what they did. And I didn't know much at all. And the big thing which I think they were doing was they were using Pixel for all of the niches. So they were mixing father and daughter, mother-daughter, and this is something which I learned from your course. And but like again, like I've had other people say, "Oh, it doesn't matter," but like for me, what works, right? Like I've tried so many different things, and I'll make another guesstimate here because one thing I found is when I do these like pixels, they are like so zoned into the particular type of buyer that I can't change anything on them. I can't change the color of the message card. I can't change the necklace because as soon as I do any sort of change, once it's like super, like we're talking like super optimized, it just doesn't like throwing anything else at it. So if we take a step back and talk about like a general pixel, I think that same sort of thing applies. Like you can't really super zone in on the buyer. So general pixels will work as well because like if you just keep spending and it'll build up all of the wider sort of audiences. So but if you want to do it in a quicker sort of aspect, I think and if you don't have so much money to spend, I think the niche pixels are still the way to go.
So back to the agency real quick.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's always struck me is like the print on demand game is just fundamentally different than other marketing. So like I did agency work for a while, and most e-commerce companies don't have just a plethora of products for you to mess with. They have a handful of products maybe in their entire product line, and you spend most of your time testing on the creative side, right? So you're constantly like trying to come up with new angles and new creatives in terms of images and videos and things like that to work to get them to sell the one single product, right? And if the product is garbage, it's garbage. Where the print on demand in a lot of agencies, that's what they're used to dealing with. But the print on demand space is a lot different in my mind because we have the unique ability to, like, if the product is garbage, we just literally flush it and try another one, right?
Yep.
Whereas most agencies will sit there and just keep throwing good money after bad, trying to optimize a pixel or trying to get the campaigns out of there are all these reasons that they just need to keep throwing more and more resources at what is basically a failed product. I don't know that agencies will ever be good in the print on demand space. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like I talked with a few others because I wanted to sort of delegate some of my stuff, but they just don't really understand. Like I guess they're more like programmed into like macro level. Doesn't matter what the cost per acquisition is, we'll get the lifetime value of the customer, where that's super different to what we're doing, especially me. Like I'm doing like so much cold traffic. People are just interacting with my product for the first time, and I pretty much have to convert them at that point. Like you have to make sure that you address all of the customers' objections. So like if you compare it to some like a car salesman, right? So you go in to buy a car, and they will do everything they can to sell you that car. Like if you have an objection about budget, oh, it's a bit out of my budget, then they'll go, oh, the payments are only X. So they'll address all of your concerns. Or it makes noise on the with the tires. You can put like different tires will do that for you. So they'll manage all these objections. So we pretty much have to do that with a creative, our offer, and product page copy, right? So that's our only chance to convert that customer. So although you can retarget them, but most of the sales process happens in that quick. Am I
It,
going to this or not? It's like nothing. You have to pretty much meet all their objections, and that's why I think the lifestyle creatives which you were talking about, like actual like photos of the product, work so well, because that's another objection I think a lot of customers have, is that they don't believe it's real. Like there's so many like scams and other things running on Facebook that they don't believe it's real, like if it's just like a creative. So like having like real photos of the image, like when you're scaling, helps quite a lot, because it deals with that buyer objection for that particular thing. So
no, I agree with you that like we live in the world of making cold acquisition profitable, and most agencies like literally cannot do that. They're trying to acquire customers for as cheap as possible, but they still want you to have a robust back end to make up money on the lifetime value of the customer. And if you're selling on a platform, you can't do that. I've said this before, and I think I'm right about this. I think probably the best media buyers in the world are those running on the platforms. I think the best Facebook media buyers in the world are probably those people running on the platforms, because they are required to make cold acquisition work, and not everybody can do that. And if I'm wrong about that statement, then I know I'm not wrong about the next one. And that is probably the best place to learn media buying on Facebook is going to be through starting on one of these platforms and learning how to make cold acquisition work. So, okay, this time last year, you said you were doing agency stuff. We got off on kind of a bunny trail with that. So that was December of last year. When did you have, so correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think you had a winner in the run up to Christmas of last year. Is that correct?
So I sort of had a feel of what a winner looks like after I took over the ads, but like, I didn't really know much at that point, because like I'm a consultant diving into advertising. I've done like, my degree is business commerce, so like I've done some like introductory to marketing, but it has nothing to do with what like we're doing.
Yeah. Well, this also, man, I feel torn on whether or not to even call this marketing, because most of what we do is more media buying than marketing.
There is the marketing part of it, right? So you've got your product, your offer, your like that sort of stuff.
It's there. It's just it feels secondary to me.
Yeah, I think there's a good degree of marketing as well, but not like it's more the media buying. You're right.
But okay, so you had a feel for what a winner was. What about Valentine? By the way, I'm just trying to create kind of a timeline here, because I think it's going to give a lot of people in the audience hope, or right, where they'll be able to kind of identify with where you were at and that kind of thing. So you had a feeling for what a winner was. What about, so Valentine's Day was February 14th, I think, is February, whatever. It's in February. Yeah. So what about the run up to Valentine's Day?
So before Valentine's Day, I was testing some products, not really successful. And I guess like I realized that sort of like first, like pretty much after Christmas to about like middle of January, there is like a slump. And I was like trying to test products in that slump. So that's probably just me being inexperienced. But, I invested my time. I got your course, and I invested time learning a lot of the content. And there was ups and downs, and a huge learning curve, but I think I managed to do like 15K in revenue, and actually start to break a profit, and cover some of my previous losses in a very short span of time. Like, so I did the course, and I think there was like 1 week where, you know, it was ups and downs, and like financially I was pretty, you know, I was financially in a pretty bad position because of all the money I lost from quarter 4 the previous year. And
I actually remember you IMing me on Facebook about it.
yeah, so like I already had like so much invested, and like I didn't get paid from a consulting client that owed me like a $5,000. So I was like in a pretty tough financial spot at that point. But like fortunately, like the second week, I kind of got a hang of things, and like I got like some of the methods which you were using worked quite well for me until someone sold out all of the forever loves. And then like I didn't have any product to sell for like 5 days, so I tried to switch to another product. It wasn't as
I
profitable.
forgot about that, dude. I completely forgot about that.
So I tried to switch to another product. It wasn't as profitable, but like I still managed to consistently make profit. So having a feel for that, you know, obviously COVID started and things got a little bit interesting. So a lot of people at home and a lot of buyers online. So I
So
tried.
what did it do for your mindset to be able to hit the 15K on the way to Valentine's Day?
I guess it was just like me not giving up. Like I really wanted to make it work, and I really appreciated what we had in the private community. Like we had like the private group for the ecom profit formula. So a lot of members in there were supportive, and that's what I kind of trying to replicate with my private group as well. Just having like engaged entrepreneurs and continually having the support network, because that did really like help like the family like environment. And you know, you helped quite a lot as well. So you know, having people around you that are positive and are on with the same sort of mindset can help you. It can make the world of difference, right? Like just having you know, or even if you don't have like these private groups or whatever, you know, you can find people that, you know, there's a community here at ShineOn with like 15,000 members. You can find people that are, you know, maybe a little bit better than you, or people that are starting out just like you, and you can network with these people and share experiences and learn from each other, and they can help you not give up, sort of thing. So I think a lot of the mindset, not giving up and trying to prevail, makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing that I really, really have tried to hammer home just about every time I talk to people is like if you don't give up long enough, you'll win. Like that is literally the name of the game. I think in this space is just outlasting your failures, because the failures are going to happen no matter what. You're not going to get away from that. Your goal is to just outlast them, right? I heard one person say they defined entrepreneurship as the ability to endure pain for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And that might be a little bit extreme, but it gets the point across, right? It's that most of the time, it's probably going to suck until you get to your goal. But there is something weird that I experienced this when I hit my first winter. There was just this something clicked at a mindset level for me. It was like just doing it made it real. Like doing it the first time felt like it made it accessible. Like, oh, well, if I can do it once, surely I can do it again. You know what I mean? And it also, like, when I watched YouTube videos or took a course and I saw other people in their big numbers, it didn't feel like I was here and they were on an island over there anymore. It felt like, no, these are just human beings just like me. They just did the work and they found one. And I can do the same thing. You know, it like hitting that first winter for me was critical and a shift, like a mindset shift that I had.
Yeah, I mean, I had like a huge down slump after Valentine's Day. Like I was trying to do like a lot of evergreen stuff, and obviously not being experienced and trying to jump into that, probably like not the smartest thing to do. So then I like got like COVID started, and I think just before COVID started, I did like traditional drop shipping again, and I had success with like some pet based store and some baby based stores. So I was doing well with that. But the problem is like COVID kicked in and like the shipping times went like exponential, and I ended up having to like return a lot of orders and chargebacks and all that sort of stuff. So there was like a little bit of drama I had before, you know, things turned around for me again with, you know, I went back to ShineOn, like I think in the middle of the year, and I was trying things that worked for me before, but, you know, in different audiences with different type of message
So
card.
let me stop you real quick. So you're saying that you hit the 15K in Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Then you kind of shifted towards more broad kind of niches and also drop shipping. And you didn't revisit ShineOn until the middle of the year. So we're talking like June or July.
Yeah, it was June or July where I started, you know, ShineOn
Oh,
again.
wow, man. For some reason, I thought you hit something fairly big kind of in like, I think it was April, May timeframe when e-commerce just had this huge, it had like another Q4 because of COVID. So you sat that period out, and you didn't jump back in until June, July.
So I did have a product which I scaled on ShineOn, but it was for a client, so it's not my win. Yeah, I did do the product research and I did do like all of the ads, but it wasn't really my funds or anything like that. So
hold on a second. So December, you had an agency running your ads. Tell me I heard this right. So December, you had an agency running your ads. You take a course, whatever. Valentine's Day, you do 15K. You sit out April, May, and June, or April and May. Then June, July, you take on a client and scale their ads. Is that what happened?
it was in April where I had clients for advertising. So it was like
that's even more awesome, dude.
2 months after I
love
became
that.
Yeah, I had clients, and yeah,
and you did good with them too.
Yeah, so
that's what is so cool about this story. I think,
yeah,
it shows an incredible amount of initiative, I think, on your part, and as well as just action in general, dude.
Yeah.
I just, can we get a slow clap for this guy, everybody here in the audience? Little slow clap wherever you're at. Raise your hands. You deserve that, buddy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think for the graduation we did like 75K revenue in like 10 days or something like that. So that was like,
so that's May. That was like May, right?
April, May, yeah. So I actually like,
that was the client product.
I remember seeing like a product which was trending, and I posted it like, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks before I took it on. I think it was, so yeah, you're right. I think it was May where I jumped into trying that product. So I posted the product which was trending in the ecom profit formula. I'm like, hey, you know, this is a good idea. And then no one really did anything with it. And then I'm like, all right, I'll test it myself. And it just like went crazy. Like I was like so surprised that, you know, that product had so much room in it.
And I'm sorry, I'm losing track here. When was this? What month was that?
So April was when I made the post, I think.
Okay.
In profit formula. So like I saw an ad for a product in my news feed, which I thought was a good idea for graduation. And I posted in the group. I'm like, this is a good idea. People should like, you know, do graduation or like do similar message card to this. And I don't think anyone took action on it in the group. I think people sort of towards after seeing my figures started to jump on it, but you know, I'd already capitalized on it.
I remember that product, by the way.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember this. Okay, so, and how much did you do on that?
75K in 10 days, I think that was.
So revenue. Man, that was your second win. Well, I guess technically your third if you count the client win, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then so that's like May, and then and by the way, we don't have to. Don't feel like you have to share numbers and stuff this whole time. I'm just trying to piece together the narrative here. So June and July, were you active with ShineOn?
June and July, yes, I was.
And where again, you don't have to share numbers unless you just feel inclined, but where were you at? Were you testing? Did you have winners again? Where were you at in June or July?
June and July, I had many winners. So I started off with one and I I had my first winning product, and then I had my second winning product, and then I actually shared a product idea in my private group, and I was like, the audience is hungry, and this product can go multi six figures for sure. And a lot of members were like skeptical. They're like, "Oh no, I've seen this before, and it's not going to work." And some members tested it and they had good results, but a lot of them gave up. So I said, I'm going to do a case study and I'm just going to scale it. And I scaled it to like multi six figures, like just the
Good
one
on you,
product.
brother.
So there's like a whole recorded session, like every single day of what I'm doing behind my sort of shoulders, that just basically shows them the whole process from start to finish. And yeah, so like prove them that you can just do a flip of something that's already working. If the audience if the audience is hungry, they're hungry. So they'll buy the product. So I think. Yeah, I reached mid six figures, like I think by July, sort of thing. So
Okay, so that's
right.
July. So what about August, September?
So yeah, I was well into seven figures, and now I'm like well into multi seven figures.
Seven figures total is what you're saying.
Yeah, in sales.
So that's August, September. So now that kind of brings us up to current. So where and again, you don't have to share numbers unless you just feel like it, but where are you at now? Are you riding another winter? I know you're scaling something.
Yeah,
Give
so
us a feeling.
I'm scaling two products, one sort of losing steam, and it's because the audience is a bit smaller. So it's like more of a sub niche product. So I think I've hit that audience like 3 times already within the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I don't think it's got much more steam. And that's the thing. Like if you have like a sub niche product, what we talked about before, like, it
Like
has
taking the movie or something people are like the ballet you mentioned earlier and creating a product specifically for them. That's what you mean by sub niche.
Yeah, you're talking about like maybe low six figures, like with those types of products. But the broad products are the ones that you can go like crazy numbers. So the broad product, I'm doing close to six figures per day, and I think like 500K. So yeah, close to 500K in a week.
Good for you, man. Is that a 7-day week or a 5-day week? That's a 7-day week. Yeah. Good for you, buddy. And it's December 10th. So we have a lot more selling days. And the amount of buyer activity is just likely to increase. So you're sitting on a freaking gold mine, man. Good for you. So now compare where you were at this year to last year. I'm just curious to know, how has your life changed? You driving like a freaking Ferrari or anything like that? Where you at?
So actually, I still drive a 3,000 euro Punto Grande. So
Dude, you the man. I'm still driving my Prius.
yeah. So like my life has changed exponentially. So like I have more time with my daughter.
Oh yeah. So hang on. Time out. Sorry. When did you quit the consulting thing?
So I officially quit. I think it was August or September, and it's like it was like really hard for me like to do that because I had so many clients, and it like I've been like a lot of them were like for over a longer period of time, and I just like I had resources, but the thing is I couldn't give up my time. Like my time is more valuable when this is more profitable. So like I have to manage the clients and do the specs for builds and all that other activities, like, and it was just consuming too much of
I
my
hear
time.
you,
I can't really replace myself. So that's why I sort of I decided to take a step back. And a lot of the clients, like I split them up between my developers. So like, I didn't leave them with no work sort of things. I think I did the right thing by splitting that up, and that way they've got continuous work moving forward. But yeah, it's like
And I assume you had a fairly good cushion kind of built up to make that transition from your previous winnings.
yeah.
And I'm curious, how far does the dollar go in Macedonia?
So in Macedonia, the average salary is 200 euros, which is about 280 US roughly. So like for here, it's just like exponential. So I've I've acquired an apartment. It's going to be furnished, and I can
I
get.
don't. Can you? I didn't follow that, man.
Go
How
ahead.
far does the dollar go?
So dollar is like 40 dinars, which is sorry, American dollars 50 dinars, Australian dollars 40 dinars.
So
So
one US dollar is the equivalent of 50 dinars.
yeah,
Okay. And what
uh,
can you buy with 50 dinars?
you can buy a beer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Can't buy a beer for $1 here.
yeah,
Um, wow, that is so it does stretch pretty far over there. So that's
yeah,
like you're like 3xing the money, it seems like, just based on standard of living.
yeah, and the tax is really good as well.
So you just acquired an apartment?
Yeah, so we got an apartment which we're moving into early next year. Obviously, enough funds to furnish, and I can upgrade the car, I think, as well. I think it's time.
Yeah, I don't know. For
No.
me, a car just it solves one problem, and that's
Yeah,
the walking to work in the rain problem. It's just not important to me. But I hear you, man. Well, congratulations, dude. I mean, seriously, um, I've been talking to you for about a year now, and
yeah,
you were by far, well, to my knowledge anyway, the most successful student that took my course. And I don't know, man, you're just killing it, and all the credit goes to you. You've experimented, you've pushed the boundaries, you learned about the algorithm. You've done some things that have surprised me when I've heard about some tactics you've taken and things like that. So I'm super impressed, man. You deserve 100% of that credit. So I mean, great work, dude.
yeah, man, and I appreciate like everything you've done, and ShineOn have done exponentially, and the opportunity which they give is like life changing. Like as you can see from my perspective, and like I just want to make it clear to other people as well. Like make sure that like you treat it as an investment and a business. Like when I started out, like as everyone knows, like I had another income stream. So I was investing pretty much money which I could afford to lose, because not everyone can, it's not for everyone. Like we talked about before, some people cannot just like sit in front of the computer. There's different things. So not to discourage people, but you kind of have to set up like your investment for this, and make sure it's something you're comfortable with, because it can run away from you very quickly. And yeah, so
Well, in
just
good grief, I'm sitting here going, man, Krste must be living like a king if $1 is like 50 dinars. And, I, relatively speaking, I have no frame of reference for that. But look at it the other direction. Krste, for a great deal of time there, was spending 50 dinars, which was the equivalent of $1 to test campaigns and things like that in the US. So I mean, when you look at it the other direction, you were spending what would be the lifestyle equivalent of 3 times what we spend to do some of this stuff. So in terms of risk, that's saying something, I guess. But I agree with you that people they need to approach this sober mindedly. Um, Again, like you said, not to discourage anybody, but you need to be real about this, that it can get away from you quick. And by no means should anybody do something rash like quit their job when they haven't built up a nice nest egg in the savings account and develop their skill set in this space, because there's no guarantee of success.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I've I've replaced my I've replaced a portion of my consulting income with with my private group. So the private group is more about helping people, but it does provide like a monthly income that is like sort of secure, right? So while I don't get that sort of static income, like say if I'm not doing advertising, I still have some sort of income, and then you've got something to test with. But I'm not saying everyone's gonna like go to that level and then they're also gonna take on clients or do their private group or whatever. But yeah, so it's just like having, you should always have an income stream while you're trying to work on your side hustle, because or multiple income streams, right? So you should have secure income, because you need to invest money in this, whether it's testing, whether it's scaling. You need that flow of income. And if you want to scale big, you have to have, I don't really recommend credit, but you have to have funds to do it. So ideally, you want to build like an investment, and that's the thing. Like even if you open like any other business, right? There is risks involved. Like you have money on the table, and this is the other thing which I was like reiterating a lot in the private group is like, if you have like a jewelry store, the results aren't always going to be good every day, right? Like um, because say for example today's raining and you might have less foot traffic. Same deal with Facebook, it's going to have more people joining the auction on one day and your results are going to be, so they have to like be prepared for a few days of testing and a few days of the cycle. Because if you just have like a really small budget and you can't afford to lose it, the other thing which happens is your mindset isn't quite right, because you're so invested in making money and so invested in succeeding that it kind of does the adverse effect on so you probably overthink things and like really
Sure.
make a lot of mistakes. Like, and that's speaking from experience. A lot of the things which I did when I was starting was a lot of mistakes because of my desire to make it work and succeed. So I was making, like when we were talking about that bad period where I had like after Valentine's Day, where I was trying to do things without much experience, right? That's talking from my experience, right? So I actually made that mistake myself, like being so invested to
Yeah,
succeed.
I think you're saying like you can't be emotional about the money.
Exactly.
Like you have to be able to keep kind of a cool and level head so that like you can make good data driven decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that,
this brings me back to the whole poker thing I was talking about earlier, where like poker players seem to have a strange advantage in this, and this may actually be tapping into why, because you got to think of a poker player sitting at a poker table, you're putting real money into the pot all the time, but if like you're emotionally attached to that money, you're going to have all kinds of physiological responses when that money is on the line, and you might lose it based on your hand. And, you might get a little shake or a quiver in your hand. You may act funny. All those things become tells and you can lose the money and blah, blah, blah. So poker players have to learn over time how to disassociate or break off that kind of emotional piece from the game
yeah,
itself. And that's
and-
exactly what you're saying you have to do here in this business. You cannot be emotionally tied to the investment you're making in the ads.
and that's the thing. Anything can happen, right? So COVID happened this year. A lot of businesses, unfortunately, shut or had like huge downturns. While on the other scale, like e-commerce and other businesses, like had a huge upswing. So it's like swings and roundabouts. All businesses will be up and down all the time. So you have to be prepared for that. And yeah, we have to reiterate that you have to have like the income streams and be comfortable with what you're doing, and you can make it work. Like there's lots of
But it,
people, whether it's from the ShineOn community, I've seen like lots of sellers become successful, whether it's from my private group, like people that I've helped. And there's been a lot of people that have left the group and it wasn't really for them, or they couldn't make it work, or they didn't have the quite right budgets, and like there's so many reasons why people pull out as well. So that just as long as everyone's comfortable with what they're doing and they understand the situation and not being emotionally attached and making emotional decisions. You want your buyers to make the emotional decision, not not you, the seller.
Yeah, for sure.
The buyer
Dude,
needs to go to your ad and be emotional. Oh yes, and I'm going to buy it. So you let them be the emotional person, not you.
this whole thing reminds me of the movie Rounders. Have you seen the movie Rounders with Matt Damon?
No.
It's a poker movie. I guess my mind is in this poker thing now. Well, shoot, if you haven't seen the movie, the analogy doesn't work, but it's got Matt Damon in it and Ed Norton, and they're poker players. And anyway, there's this whole kind of underground poker community, and there's this one guy, and I can't remember his name, dang it. So this whole analogy is going to flop, but they say that like this guy has been playing poker, like he hasn't had a day job in like 15 years. He's done nothing but play poker, and he grinds it out. And there's this conversation with the guy, and the guy's kind of like, dude, this is a job to me. He's like, I have child support. I have alimony I have to pay. This is a job to me. I sit down at that table. I grind it out every single night. And like, you can see like in the scene, it always kind of stuck with me because it's like, this guy has a different approach than Matt Damon did in the movie. Matt Damon wanted to go to the World Series of Poker, be the best player in the world and all this kind of stuff. And this other guy saw it as a job. And I kind of hear some of that coming out in what you're saying here. You're like, dude, you can make this work, but you have to be a pro at it. You have to be a professional. You have to treat it like a job, you know? And I couldn't agree with that more, by the way. Like, this is not a place to make rash or silly or emotion-driven decisions. Like, you will get eaten alive in this space. Like, you have to stay calm. You have to be Spock. You have to put on your Spock hat every time you sit down at ads manager to start doing some things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I guess like I had like an emotional train there. Like I didn't have the success for the broad products which I tested. Then I went, so yeah, emotion, like I'll do drop shipping. That's a good idea. Maybe not, but like, yeah, that was
for sure.
And then like I came back to ShineOn because I pretty much, the whole reason why I did ShineOn in the first place was I was getting away from like drop shipping products because of all the advantages ShineOn brings. Like, you know, you've got the fast USA shipping, you've got the high perceived value, you've got, you know, the support and all the options. You know, you've got platform, you've got your own store. So there's so much flexibility there that you can build a business upon compared to, you know, drop shipping. Like it can work, and a lot of people make it do work, but like a lot of people are also transitioning away from traditional drop shipping. A lot of people are doing like brands and, you know, white labeling and all sorts of other stuff. So it's kind of moving away from that. And I think ShineOn did that a lot earlier, and they've set up such a great network that, you know, it gives everyone like an opportunity to do something spectacular.
So, man, I don't want to risk dragging this out too long here. I feel like this has been a pretty good conversation. Let's try to wrap this up with just what are some high level takeaways maybe that you can share with the audience here, and then we'll wrap it up. And maybe 2-3 tips, tricks. I mean, what advice would you give to relatively new folks that maybe are where you're at last December and they want to get to where you're at this December? What would you say to those people?
So for me, my philosophy is keep it simple, stupid. Basically, everything that I do, from testing to scaling to you know, even finding products and creating the message cards, everything is simple. So, you know, don't overthink things. Don't spend too much time on the drawing board. Start doing things like go and research products, find products, test the products. You know, the more you think about things, the more you'll second guess your stuff, and then you may not even test the product, or, you know, you may think it's not good enough for the audience. So, you know, a lot of people think too much. So if you follow like some of the tips which I shared before, like keeping the design simple, using big text so it's very legible, you know, that's half of the battle already. And then you just have to find the message which resonates with the audience. And yeah, when you jump into the Facebook ads, it's no different. You can do like simple methods. So my testing strategy, which you can find in ShineOn group, is the Dirty30 method. So all that involves is having one interest, sorry, one campaign, one ad set, one ad, and it's just a single interest in there with a $30 budget, and we duplicate that 2 to 3 times. So it's about 120, like $90 to $120 per day for testing, and we look for like 2 to 3 purchases across all those campaigns. And I don't run any rules. Like the only rules that I have on that is if I don't achieve a purchase by break even. So if my break even is $32, if I don't achieve purchase on a campaign at $16, I'll just cut that and it's the end. But there is other situations. So if you have like a purchase or purchases, then you can look at scaling it. Purchase, I'd probably just leave the ones which acquire the purchases to run several days because they are CBOs. So CBOs, perform generally better after the second, third day. So, but yeah, you follow the trends. Like it doesn't matter which strategy you're using in advertising on Facebook. Is if it's trending down over a few days, then it's likely not going to recover. If it's trending up, it'll likely get better. But like once you start pushing budgets, you might hit that threshold. So you follow the trends. Like the data's there. Like you look at your data. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? And you kind of make decisions based on that. And that's basically all I can really share without going.
So keep it simple, right? And then kind of that Dirty30 method and follow the trends. And that Dirty30 method is posted in the ShineOn group. People can just go there, search Dirty30, they'll find it.
And like people, myself and other people have scaled with that method. So basically we just continually add those campaigns. But all of the information is there, so people can look that up and have a look.
Awesome.
I know there's several people which have posted on the post that they had success with it. There was a few questions which I've answered on there as well, so it's pretty in depth. So yeah, go and look out for that if you want a testing method.
So just go to the ShineOn group and search for Dirty30. I've seen that post actually pop up a handful of times over probably the last 30-45 days. So it is still active and getting comments. So hey, Krste, man, thanks for hopping on. This was fun, dude. I want to do more of these, and I'd like to have you back on in Q1 to talk about your results from the next 10 days of scaling.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I know that there's plenty of coffee sessions, and it was a pleasure being a guest on here, I guess.
Yeah, man. No, I actually loved this format. Hey, if you guys liked this format, I need you to let me know down here in the chat because I'll do more of these. We'll have Krste on. We'll have other sellers on. So if you like this format, make sure you let me know here. I'll go through the comments and see what you guys thought. But anyway,
just a suggestion, I guess. If some of my private group members are confident enough, we can do some additional interviews of their journeys of how they started and where they got to as well, and what things sort of helped them along the way. If that's of interest to the audience.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'd love to do interviews like this with other people in our community all year long. I actually really enjoyed this. Plus, I got to be honest, me getting up every week and teaching, I get sick of myself, if I'm quite honest with you. So this was for me, this was refreshing and a good change. So anyway, Krste, thanks so much for hopping on, man. We'll talk again soon.
Yep.
Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate you. And we will see you next week. Take care, everybody. What's up, everybody? Michael Krste here. I want to thank you so much for checking out today's video. Before you leave, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Check out all the links in the description below, particularly the link to register on ShineOn.com and also the link to our Facebook group where we are constantly sharing marketing tips and tricks to help you take your e-commerce game to the next level. So once again, I hope you enjoyed today's video and we'll see you in the next one.